Hey home bakers, it's Jack here, bakewithjack.co.uk. And last week we made pizzas, but making them actually round can be tricky. So how about 7 techniques to help you make that happen? Roll that theme tune. Hello to you and welcome back to the Bake with Jack YouTube channel, where I make videos to help you make bread. And pushing out the perfect pizza takes practice, yeah? So in this week's video, I'd like to share with you 7 top techniques, 7 secret special moves that I've picked up over the years to help you get that perfect disc. And at the end, I'm gonna tell you exactly what you can do if it all goes wrong. Cut to the table. So here are our lovely pizza balls, rested nicely up from the fridge. We'll take our first ball on some dust like this, and the first move we're going to talk about here is the dimple and press. Okay, this is what I like to call the beginning of the process, and this is your foundation. You're going to dimple around the edges with your thumbs, and then that dome in the middle, you're going to push down in the middle. This is what we do before we do any of the following techniques. This is what I always do. The next one, number 2, I've quite cleverly named the simple stretcher. Take it in between my 2 hands like this with my fingers just inside that crust line we've just made. Bring my hands together and stretch it from the middle all the way to the edge. And when I'm tossing it in the air and catching it just like that, I'm just giving a little turn to make sure I get all the edges evenly. That's the second one. Now I'm just gonna put something in that cupboard and leave it open a crack. Oh, that's annoying, isn't it? The next one's called the fingertip dangle, and what I'm doing here is using the weight of the dough itself. Once again, my fingers are inside, they're together and they're inside the line of that crust, holding the crust if you like. I'm allowing the weight of the pizza to stretch it out for me while shuffling it from one hand to the other hand to get it nice and even all the way around. This next tip you'd also seen in last week's video. I'm going to dust it on the top and underneath to make sure it slides really well. And now with my hands palm down like this, I'll put my fingers just inside the line of that crust. Insert my hands, give them a stretch apart and turn the pizza at the same time. This is called the tabletop push and turn. Like that. This is a really nice one to get it really, really big. It's going to take some practice and plenty of dust underneath so it doesn't stick and snag to the table. A friend of mine can do this really well. It's unbelievable what he can do. He can put 2 or 3 pizzas together and stretch them all at once. It's absolutely crazy. And here's a little bonus maneuver for the tabletop push and turn that I've seen people do. I haven't quite cracked it yet, but what a lot of people do is do it over the edge of the table like this. And this way you get a little bit of even pull from the weight of the pizza as well. Push and turn, the weight of that bit dangling over the edge of the table will help to get it nice and big. I feel like people will probably do this in restaurants for speed, because not only are you doing some of the work, gravity's doing some of the work as well. I haven't quite cracked this, but hey, it's a bit of fun to play with, and that one's got properly massive now. Look at the size of it. Nice. All right, next ball's coming up. Flour on the table, a flour on the top, and we're gonna do the dimple and press exactly like before. Dimple around the edge with my thumbs to mark out where that crust is, and then push down that dome in the middle. This is always my starting point. Shut that cupboard quickly. Oh, I'm a disgrace, I know. Sorry about that. Next, this is the first way I ever learned to push out a pizza. It's to take your hands like this, palm up, fingers together. Don't make a claw hand like that, because you'll pop a finger through the base by accident at some point. Nice and flat, both hands. Now I'm going to pass it from one hand to the other hand, and every time I do, I'm kind of crossing my hands over so the pizza naturally turns, like 90 degrees or so. We build up some speed and we're going to pass it wider. We're going to swing it out wider, so the weight of the pizza over the edge of my hand is what stretches out the pizza. This is called the 2-handed palm swing. It's probably my preferred way of doing it. You've got to be careful as you get to the end, because it's going to get really, really thin and quite tricky to do. You are in danger of putting your finger through it, but if you keep your palms flat, you should be okay, and that's that one done. I love that one. In restaurants, that was the first way I ever learned how to do it, and I really like it. Really swing out to the sides to get that kind of force to pull it nice and big. That one's on the paper. And we're all done. All right, next one up, dust on the top, dust on the bottom, exactly the same. Dimple around the edge, marking out that crust, and we're gonna push down that center dome exactly the same as before. And this next one I like to call the 10 knuckle shuffle. Sorry. I'm gonna give it a little 2-handed palm swing just to help it out, just to start it off. And now I'm gonna lift it and put it on my knuckles. I'll put my 2 fists together stretching it, a little bit like the simple stretch we did earlier. Give me a little jump and a turn each time. And here we go with the last one, the frisbee toss, also known as the show off. It's tricky to do, but it provides equal force applied to all the edges. There is a point of it. It's not just about showing off. Equal force, as we spoke about in the pizza principle recipe, all the way to the edges in a frictionless space. Isn't that cool? To do it, put your knuckles together like this, twist them up with the dough on top. And then you're gonna go up in the air, untwist your hands, up in the air, and catch them back onto your hands again, ready for the next go. Like this. It's like a rotational jump into the air, the frisbee toss. It looks quite fancy. We used to do this in the restaurants to impress the waiting staff, and to be quite honest, they couldn't care less. Now, there will be subtle differences in the way these pizzas come out because of the way we've shaped them, but I'm not going to bake them all and review them and compare them for you, because this is your learning journey. It's your voyage of discovery, and I don't want to take that away from you. The slight nuances here are a result of the human touch, unique to each and every one of us, and that's just one of the wonderful things about bread. It's an imprint of you as unique as your fingerprint. So never underestimate the power of play, the power of making your own way. Do what feels right to you, because that's all the professionals do, and then you're rubbing shoulders with the big boys and girls. So then what do we do if it all goes wrong? You've tried, and in attempting to make a pizza that looked like it just came out of Italy, you actually made a pizza in the shape of Italy with a hole in it. That's not ideal, but first, here's what I would suggest. Continue on. Don't knock things on the head straight away when they're not going perfect. You can patch a small hole, and in any case, if you're baking on parchment paper, like I always recommend, you can get away with a little bit of sauce leakage underneath and swerve potential disaster. And as we all know here, the most important thing is that our pizza looks like we made it, not like we bought some stone-baked, part-baked pizza from Waitrose and Taylor. The reason I encourage you to continue on is because if you then freak out and fold it back all up into a ball and try and push it out again, it can't be done, or more accurately, it can't be done straight away. You'll need to wait a couple of hours for it to relax enough to be able to push it out a second time around. And let me show you what I mean. I'm not going to bake all my pizzas because there's only so much pizza one skinny man can eat. So what I'm going to do is ball it back up. Here you can see what I'm doing. I'm folding it all back up into a ball, exactly like you did in the shaping stage when you made it into a ball in the first place. Roll it over, give it a roll to tighten it up, and it should come back nicely so long as there's not too much flour all over the place. Then pop it back onto your tray like so. I'm going to do the same with the next one too. Now, there is no way after we've done this that this is going to be easy to push out. It's going to be really tough and springy and bouncy, and it's going to resist us to the point where it's just going to want to stay in that ball forever. If I attempt the classic dimple and press technique, it's just going to resist me. It's like I didn't even do anything. I can squash it, I can try and stretch it, but it's never ever going to go big because all the gluten's all tightened up now and bouncy. It doesn't want to go there. As I put it on the table, you can see what it's doing and springing itself back. So I'm just going to ball it all back up again, give it a nice roll to tighten up, and leave it on my tray for a couple of hours. Now, that's not particularly helpful. I appreciate that, because now you can't eat pizzas for another 2 hours. So here's the answer. If you're not confident pushing them out and you think you might fluff up a couple, make extra. That way you have a few spares should everything go pear-shaped. You can always freeze the extra for emergencies, what we will discover in next week's video, which is the perfect reason, if there was any, to subscribe to the Bake with Jack YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed already and you want to stick around, consider clicking that subscribe button before you go and listen. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you've learned something today, and I look forward to seeing you very soon. Bye-bye. And there you have it, your weekly bread making tip turned out a little bit longer than I anticipated this week. I hope you got loads of value out of it. Don't forget, you can get your Bake with Jack bits and bobs from bakewithjack.co.uk/shop, and I'll see you back here next week where we'll be freezing and defrosting pizza dough. See ya.